देहं शीघ्रो श्रीयुतपदकमलं शीघ्रो वैष्णवांश्च क्षीरूपं सागरजातं च तं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादां सगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणि प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यादि पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे सर्वशास्त्रार्थ पीयूष सर्ववेदैक सत्फल सर्वसिद्धांत रत्नाढ्य सर्वलोकैक त्रिप्रद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवत प्रभो कलिध्वान्तोदितादित्य श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तिता परमानंद पाठाय प्रेमवर्षक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्या श्रीकृष्णाय नमस्तुमे तदेक बंधो मत्संगित मद्गुरो मन्महाधना मन्निस्तारक मद्भाग्य मद आनंद नमस्तुते साधु साधुतादाय नतिनी चोच्चताकर आनमंच कदाचिन मां प्रेमणा हृत्वं ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Okay, 3.7.11, we are actually continuing here. Let me read out the verse and the translation once more. यथा जले चंद्रमसः कम्पादिस्तत्कृतो गुणः दृश्यते सन्नपि द्रष्टुरात्मनो नात्मनो गुणः. As the moon reflected on water appears to the seer to tremble due to being associated with the quality of the water, so the self associated with matter appears to have the qualities of matter. Sarartha Darshini. ननु ज्ञान आनंद आदि आवरणम जीवस्य भवतु नाम. Objection. Fine. Let it be the case that the jiva is covered by the jiva's knowledge, bliss, and so on, or ragadvesha, shoka, moha, kama, adayah, dharmaah, tena, kutah labdhaah. From where does he get the features or the qualities of uh, attraction, hatred, sorrow, delusion, lust, and so on? Anticipating this objection, this verse is spoken. Atrahayate anatmanah antahkaranasya eva gunaha shokam mohadi drashtuh atmanah jivasya asad tatra na sambhavan api drishyate. Even though it is not possible for the qualities such as sorrow and delusion, which are actually qualities of the antahkarana, the inner sense organ or the mind. Even though these qualities are not, it is not possible for them to be in the seer, in the seeing Atma, which refers to the Jiva. Tatra linga deha adhyasat pratiyate iti artha. Still, they appear to be features of the soul because of the superimposition of the subtle body on the soul. Upadhi dharmasya upahita vrittitvena pratitau drishtantaha. And how exactly this upadhi or this designation is superimposed on the soul and it produces that perception is explained by an example. Yatha jale iti. तत्कृतः जल उपाधिकृतः कम्पादिः चन्द्रस्य प्रतीयते. Just as the medium of reflection, which is water, brings about the perception of shaking and so on of a moon. वस्तुतः तु न स चन्द्रस्य किन्तु जलस्य एव अयम् अर्थः. In reality, that is not a feature of the moon, it is actually the feature of the water. जले यः चन्द्रः दृश्यते तर्हि चन्द्रमण्डलस्य किरणपुञ्जे एव न तु चन्द्रः. Actually, the moon that is seen on the water is only the collection of moon rays. It is not the moon itself. तथा हि चन्द्रसूर्यादि किरणः जलस्थल वृक्ष भित्ति पाषाणादिषु प्रसर्पन्नपि तेषु मध्ये यत् स्वच्छं तत्र लोकैः स प्रतिबिम्बतया उच्यते. So then, when the rays of the moon and the sun and so on, when they are very clearly perceived on water, land, trees, and so on, they are said to be reflections by the people. चंद्रो हि मुखनासिका हस्त पादादि भूषण वाहनादि परिकर विशिष्टत्वेन एव तत्रत्य जनेन अनुभूयते. In reality, the moon is seen by the residents of the Chandra Mandala. What's a Chandra Mandala? Okay, first of all, let me explain this. Chandra is experienced by the residents of Chandra Loka. Okay, let me say like this. As being characterized by a face, nose, hands, feet, and other bodily limbs, as well as ornamentation, vehicles, and so on, as well as associates. Sahi Bhagavad Drishtantah. So then that is an illustration of the Bhagavan feature. Sa eva sa swarupabhuta kiranapunja vyaptaha tu kinchid antikasthaihi kinchid dhurasthaihi cha kinchid visheshatvena cha anubhuyamanaha. Bhagavan, even though the rays of his personality are all pervasive, still by those who are near him and by those who are little further away from him, he is experienced with certain features, personal features. Kramena Paramatma Drishtantaha, Brahma Drishtantaha cha Vyayaha. And sequentially, we can also understand this to have a reference to Paramatma and Brahman as illustrations. Tad Bahirabhuta Kiranapunjaha tu Mandala Akara Samashti Jiva Drishtanta. The collection of all the jivas can be compared to the rays that have come out of Bhagavan. Because the rays that come out of him resemble a glow, and that glow is nothing but all the jivas put together. Tat pratibimbaha yaha jale drishyate saha pratibimbatvena pratiyate matram. The reflection that is seen on the water is nothing but a reflection, natu vasutaha. Pratibimbaha tatra jale api kiranapunjasya satyasya eva drishyamanatvat. It is not the actual object itself. It is simply the reflection of the rays that have emanated from the object. अतः स एव जलोपाधिवर्ति जलधर्मैः कम्पादिभिः यथा अन्वितः तथा एव अंतःकरणधर्मैः शोकमोह आदिभिः अन्वितः जीवः. So just as the rays are said to be shaking and so on, which are caused by features of the water, and that water is actually the medium of reflection. It is an upadhi. Tatha, in the same manner, the jiva is uh, perceived as being filled with sorrow, delusion, and other characteristics of the inner sense organ. Tadadhyasa, because of the superimposition on that. Tad itaha tataha prastrim maraha kiranaha tu vyashti jiva drishtanta yayahiti. And the rays that are spreading out here and there, they can be understood to be illustrations uh, for the individual jivas. The Supreme Soul, the personality of Godhead, is compared to the moon in the sky, and the living entities are compared to the reflection of the moon on water. The moon in the sky is fixed and does not appear to quiver like the moon on the water. Actually, like the original moon in the sky, the moon reflected on the water should also not quiver. But because of being associated with water, the reflection appears to be quivering. Although in actual fact, the moon is fixed. The water moves, but the moon does not move. Similarly, the living entities appear to be tainted by material qualities like illusion, lamentation, and miseries. Although in the pure soul, such qualities are completely absent. The word pratiyate, which means apparently and not actually, like the experience of having one's head cut off in a dream, is significant here. The reflection of the moon on the water is the separated rays of the moon and not the actual moon. The separated parts and parcels of the Lord entangled in the water of material existence have the quivering quality, whereas the Lord is like the actual moon in the sky, which is not at all in touch with water. The light of the sun and moon reflected on matter makes matter bright and praiseworthy. The living symptoms are compared to the light of the sun and the moon reflecting material manifestations like trees and mountains. Reflection of the sun or moon is reflected as a real sun or moon by less intelligent men, and the pure monistic philosophy develops from these ideas. In fact, the light of the sun and the moon are actually different from the sun and moon themselves, although they are always connected. The light of the moon spread throughout the sky appears to be impersonal, but the moon planet, as it is personal, and the living entities on the moon planet are also personal. In the rays of the moon, different material entities appear to be comparatively more or less important. The light of the moon on the Taj Mahal appears to be more beautiful than the same light in the wilderness, although the light of the moon is the same everywhere. Due to being differently appreciated, it appears different. Similarly, the light of the Lord is equally distributed everywhere, but due to being differently received, it appears to be different. One should not therefore accept the reflection of the moon on the water as actual and misunderstand the whole situation through monistic philosophy. The quivering quality of the moon is also variable. When the water is standing still, there is no quivering. A more settled condition soul quivers less, but due to material connection, the quivering quality is more or less present everywhere. 12. सवै निवृत्ति धर्मेण वासुदेवानुकंपया भगवद भक्ति योगेन तिरोधत्ते शनैरिह. But that misconception of self-identity can be diminished gradually by the mercy of the personality of God in Vasudeva through the process of devotion service to the Lord in the mode of detachment. Tan nivrityupayamaha, the means to become free from the features of the antahkarana is now stated here. So by anatmanah gunaha nivritti dharmena vasudevasya anukampa taya cha tasmin bhakti yogaha tena tirodhatte adrishyah bhavati. So those features that do not pertain to the soul disappear when one engages in bhakti yoga. through nivritti dharma. There's something called pravritti dharma and nivritti dharma. Nivritti dharma means dharma executed with a desire to become increasingly detached from material existence. So when one executes nivritti dharma, which is actually a feature of Bhagavad Bhakti Yoga, then by the mercy of Lord Vasudeva, these features disappear. Shanaihi iti anena sadhana anusarena iti uktam. And it diminishes gradually. Gradually indicates that it diminishes to the extent one engages in sadhana, the spiritual process. Savai iti nivritti dharmena nishkama swabhavena bhakti yogena ya vasudeva anukampa. Taya shanaihi tad anukampa taratamyena tirodhakte. The Jiva Goswami clarifies it further. With a nishkama swabhava, with a non-materialistic attitude, when one engages in bhakti yoga, then the compassion of Lord Vasudeva arises. And gradually, which means in proportion to that compassion of Lord Vasudeva, these features of the non-self, they disappear. Tarhi jivasya katham nistaraha. Then how will the jiva be delivered? Traha, anticipating this question, the answer is given here. Natmanaha gunaha nivritta dharmena. Nivritti dharma janya. Why is it nivritta dharmena? Wait. Nivritti dharma. Nivritti dharma janyena bhakti mishra jnanena ityartha. Here, he points out further details. So those features of the non-self, they disappear when one engages in nivritti dharma, which means through bhakti mishra jnana, which is generated from such nivritti dharma. तथा स्वभक्तद्वारया वासुदेव अनुकंपया उद्भूतेन भगवद भक्ति योगेन तिरोधत्ते. Then, through the mercy of Lord Vasudeva, through one of his devotees, when Bhagavad Bhakti Yoga arises, because from Bhakti Mishra Jnana one goes to Jnana Mishra Bhakti and then one comes to Kevala Bhakti. For all that you require the mercy to upgrade in Bhakti. From Gunibhuta Bhakti to Pradhanibhuta Bhakti, you require the mercy of the Lord's devotee. Atirodhatte. Then those features, they disappear. Tanivritti upaya hi jnanam va. What is this? Bhaktirva. Va bhavediti vakyartha. And the means to become free from these features of the Antahkarana is jnana, which means Bhakti Mishra Jnana. or else it means bhakti, which means kevala bhakti. This is the meaning of this sentence. Shanaihi iti sadhana anusarena anartha nivritti taratamyena iti arthaha. Shanaihi gradually indicates that corresponding to one's sadhana, there is, or in proportion to one's sadhana, there is the proportion of anartha nivritti. The quivering quality of material existence, which comes from identification with matter or from thinking oneself to be God due to the material influence of philosophical speculation, can be eradicated by devotional service to the Lord by the mercy of the personality of Godhead Vasudeva. As discussed in the first canto, because the application of devotion service to Lord Vasudeva invites pure knowledge, it quickly detaches one from the material conception of life and thus revives one's normal condition of spiritual existence, even in this life, and frees one from the material wings which cause one to quiver. Only knowledge and devotion service can elevate one towards the path of liberation. The development of knowledge for the purpose of knowing everything without rendering devotional service is considered fruitless labor, and one cannot get the desired result by such a labor of love. Lord Vasudeva is pleased by devotion service only, and thus his mercy is realized by association with pure devotees of the Lord. Pure devotees of the Lord are transcendental to all material desires, including the desire for the results of fruitive activities and philosophical speculation. If one wants to acquire the mercy of the Lord, one has to associate with pure devotees. Such association alone can, by degrees, release one from the quivering elements. 13. Yadendriyo paramo, yadendriyo parama, yadendriyo paramotha, drashtratmani pareharo, viliyante tadaklesha samsuktasyeva kritsnashaha. Yada indriya uparamaha, अथ द्रष्ट्रात्मनि द्रष्टृत्मनि परे हरौ विलीयन्ते तदा क्लेशाः संसुप्तस्य इव कृत्स्नशः. When the senses are satisfied in the seer supersoul, the personality of Godhead, and merged in him, all miseries are completely vanquished, as after a sound sleep. Madhvacharya, Indriya Uparama Akhyah Purusharthaha Muktihi. Indriya Uparama refers to the goal of life known as liberation. Tarhi sarva anartha nivrittihi kada iti apekshayamaha. Then anticipating the question, then when would all the anarthas be removed? When would one come to a status where all these calamities or problems would be removed? Aha, this is stated here. Yada indriyanam uparamaha naishchalya. When the senses do not agitate. Well, in relation to what? Drashtuhu, Atmani, Antaryami Rupe. In relation to the seeing soul in his form of the Antaryami, the super soul. Atha, Anantaram, immediately after that. Kritsna klesha vilayamatre drishtantaha samsuktasya iva iti natu punar uthane. So then all miseries are completely vanquished. The example for that, as after a sound sleep. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. तर्हि सर्वानर्थनिवृत्ति कदा इति अपेक्षायामाह यदेति तत्र ज्ञानमते इन्द्रियाणां मनोवृत्तीनाम् उपरामः लयः. According to the Gyanis, Indriya Uparama, satisfaction of the senses, that refers to cessation of the functions of the mind. सुषुप्ति व्यावृत्त्यर्थमाह द्रष्टुरात्मनि अंतर्यामणि परे ब्रह्मणि हरौ भगवति वा. Now, does this not take place during deep sleep for everyone? So, in order to point out that this is not talking about that situation, certain details are given here. Drashtuhu, Atmani, Antaryamani. Here, the seeing soul is the Antaryami, the inner controller. This refers to the Parabrahman, Lord Hari, Bhagavati Va. So either the super soul or Brahman or Bhagavan. Hare means Brahmani, Harau means Bhagavati. Va. Jnananga bhutaya bhaktiya anubhuyamani sati iti sheshaha. When bhakti, which is a part of jnana, brings about an experience of the super soul or Brahman or Bhagavan, and the functions of the mind are all merged in this supreme being, then that is then that will lead to freedom from all distresses. Krishna klesha vilayamatre drishtantah samsuptasya sushuptim praptasya yatha dhana putradi nasha dukhani liyante. Just as a person who is in sound sleep, which means he is in deep sleep. So when he is in deep sleep, then the distresses pertaining to his loss of wealth, sons, and so on disappear. Acha bhakti mate, in the opinion of the bhaktas, harau swasaundaryadibhihi manoharini yada indriyanam chakshushotra adinam uparamaha naishalyam bhagavad sambandhi saundarya saurabhya saukumarya madhurya vaidhagyeshu eva chakshu shrotra grana tvag jihva manamsi sarvatha nimajjanti. The bhaktas interpret this verse differently. They say when the functions of the senses, when the various senses, which means their eyes, their ears, their nose, their skin, their tongue, and their tongues, their minds, when all of these are unceasingly, without any agitation, when they are fixed on the beauty, fragrance, soft tenderness, sweetness, and the clever nature of Bhagavan, then all these distresses go away. Now, when these senses are, he's saying imajanti, which means immersed in him, when they are totally immersed in these features of the Lord, then there would be no distress and so on. Na punaha prakrita rupa shabda adi aswadam jighrikshanti. When they are merged in the Lord means that they no longer see the relish of material, form, sound, and so on. They don't want to go back to this again. Harau, katham bhute. So anyway, the word Hari here, Harau means in Lord Hari. Okay. So then why is the word Harau used? Because it indicates that he captivates the mind of the devotees through his beauty and so on. Harau, katham bhute. And what is the nature of this Lord Hari? Drashtra Atmani. Drashtriswarupe swiya bhaktam kripa kataksham vishayam kurvanti yarthaha. He becomes the one He becomes the one who places his merciful glance at his devotee. Pare, Parameshware, Prakrite, Paratra, Itiva. Pare indicates that he is the Supreme Lord and that he is transcendental to Prakriti. Klesha Abhavamatre Drishtantaha. This is an example just to point out that there would be no distress of any type. Samsuptasya, natu supraha, supta uthitasya, ityarthaha. This refers to a person in deep sleep, not a person who was sleeping and who later woke up. Tasya yatha swapna drishta swashiraschedanadik klesha liyante iti. No, he interprets this to mean the one who had slept, not the one who is dreaming. It means it's referring to a person who had got up after sleep. And that person, for him, the distress of seeing his own head being cut and so on would no longer be there. They would have disappeared. The quivering of the living entity as described above is due to the senses. Since the entire material existence is meant for sense gratification, the senses are the medium of material activities and they cause the quivering of the steady soul. Therefore, the senses are to be detached from all such material activities. According to the impersonalists, senses are to be stopped from merging the soul into the super soul Brahman. The devotees, however, do not stop the material senses from acting, but rather engage their transcendental senses in the service of transcendence, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In either case, the activities of the senses in the material field are to be stopped by cultivation of knowledge, and if possible, the senses should be engaged in the service of the Lord. The senses are essentially in nature. These become when contaminated by matter. The senses are transcendental to matter, but their activities become polluted when contaminated by matter. We have to treat the senses to cure them of the material disease, not stop them from acting as suggested by the impersonalist. In the Bhagavad Gita 2.59, it is said that one ceases all material activities only when satisfied by contact with a better engagement. Consciousness is active by nature and cannot be stopped from working. Artificially stopping a mischievous child is not the real remedy. The child must be given some better engagement so that he will automatically stop causing mischief. In the same way, the mischievous activities of the senses can be stopped only by better engagement in relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the eyes are engaged in seeing the beautiful form of the Lord, the tongue is engaged in tasting prasadam or remnants of foodstuff offered to the Lord, the ears are engaged in hearing His glories, the hands are engaged in cleaning the temple of the Lord, the legs are engaged in visiting His temples. Or in other words, when all the senses are engaged in transcendental variegatedness, then only can the transcendental senses become fully satisfied and eternally free from material engagement. The Lord, as a super soul residing in everyone's heart, and as a Supreme Personality of Godhead in the transcendental world, far beyond the material creation, is the seer of all our activities. He's the Drashtratma. Our activities must be so transcendently saturated that the Lord will be kind enough to look upon us favorably and engage us in His transcendental service. Then only can the senses be satisfied completely and be no longer troubled by material attraction. 14. Ashesha Sanklesha Shamam Vidhatte Gunanuvada Shravanam Murare Kim va punastat Charanavinda Paraga Seva Ratiratma Labdha. Simply by chanting and hearing of the transcendental name, form, etc. of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one can achieve the cessation of unlimited miserable conditions. Therefore, what to speak of those who have attained attraction for serving the flavor of the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord's lotus feet? Bhakti yogena klesha nivrittim darshayati ashesha iti. And then through Bhakti yoga, all the distresses are removed. Gunanam anuvadaha cha shravanam cha. Bhakti yoga consists of repeating or speaking about the qualities of the Lord, hearing about Him, and so on. Atmani manasi labdha shravana kirtana apekshaya sab prema dhyane kim punar nyayoktihi. When one with the love of Godhead meditates on Him, when with affection, when one meditates on Him, which is superior to mere Shravanam Kirtanam, the result would be far superior. अशेषेति तत्र ब्रह्मन् इत्यादि द्वये प्रथम प्रश्न अभिप्रायः अयम्. This is related to 3.7.23. तत्त्वदेवता प्रार्थने भवता यद् व्यञ्जितं भक्ति वशतामय लीलाया भगवान् सृष्ट्यादौ प्रवर्तते इति तदपि घटमानं वस्तुविरोधात् स्वभावविरोधात् च इति देशत इत्यादि द्वये तु तत् प्रस्तावत्वेन प्रश्नान्तरं ज्ञेयम् अथ उत्तरम्. Okay. Jiva Goswami's point is, it is not simply becoming free from all the distresses. It is actually becoming attracted to the lotus, to the service of the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord, which refers to bringing the Supreme Lord under one's loving control. That was already indicated in the Tatvika Devatas, their prayers to the Lord, the presiding deities of the elements. Taradharshini, no, avidya upashamartha muktayoho ज्ञान भक्ति योगयोः मध्ये कतरस्य श्रेष्ठ्यम् उक्तयोः should be like this. Between jnana yoga and bhakti yoga, both of which have been stated for as means for neutralizing avidya, which is better? Tatra bhaktireva sreshtha ityaha. So this verse states that it is bhakti which is better. Kim va iti, kim punaha iti artha. Kim va means what to speak of. Sevayam ratihi atyasakti iti artha. Attraction for the service refers to extreme attraction for service. Atmalabdha, svena eva, swasmin va prapta. Atmalabdha indicates attraction that has come about by itself. Iti ratehe swaprakashatvena ajanyatvam vyanchittam. And this attraction that is also dormant, it just is manifested. It is not created. Sadhana bhakti eva avidyam upashamayati. It is sadhana bhakti that brings about a neutralization of avidya. Kim punaha tat sadhya ratihi iti. What to speak of the goal of sadhana bhakti, which is rati or bhava bhakti. Ratehe mukhyam phalam avidya upashamahana bhavati. The primary result of rati or bhava bhakti is not neutralizing avidya, kintu bhagavat vashikara iti bhava. Rather, it is to bring Bhagavan under one's loving control. This is the implication. Two different methods of controlling the material senses are recommended in the Vedic scriptural wisdom. One of them is the process of jnana, or the path of philosophical understanding of the Supreme, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The other is that of direct engagement in the transcendental living devotional service of the Lord. Of these two most popular methods, the path of devotion service is recommended here as the best because one on the path of devotion service does not have to wait for the attainment of the fruitful results of pious activities or for the results of knowledge two stages of executing devotional service are: first, the stage of practicing devotional service with our senses under the regulations of the recognized scriptures, and second, attaining sincere attachment for serving the particles of the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. The first stage is called sadhana bhakti or devotional service for the neophyte, which is rendered under the direction of a pure devotee. And the second stage is called raga bhakti. Actually, this must be a mistranscript. It would have been bhava bhakti, in which the mature devotee automatically takes to the various services of the Lord out of sincere attachment. Even if you take it as raga bhakti, this is raga bhakti at the status of rati. The great sage Maitreya now gives a final answer to all the questions of Mitra. Devotional service to the Lord is the ultimate means for mitigating all the miserable conditions of material existence. The path of knowledge or that of mystic gymnastics may be adopted as a means for achieving that purpose, but unless mixed with bhakti or devotion service, you are unable to avoid the desired result. In other words, when one engages in bhakti mishra karma, then there might be some good result. Or when one engages in bhakti mishra jnana, bhakti mishra yoga, that would also lead to good results. Not otherwise. If one engages in kevala jnana or kevala yoga, it will not work. Or rather, if he engages in bhakti shunya jnana, bhakti shunya yoga, it will not work. He has to also mix it with the activities of bhakti. Bhakti means Vishnu bhakti. So then it is like this. How do I point out? Okay. Just for an example. Ultimately, one has to come to the point of Kevala Bhakti. Now, prior to that, one can be on not even this. Actually, Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Prior to this, Bhakti Mishra Yoga. And or else you can skip the yoga part. Run faster. Either he can move this way from Bhakti Mishra Karma to Bhakti Mishra Jnana to Bhakti Mishra Yoga to Yoga Mishra Bhakti to Bhakti, or Bhakti Mishra Karma to Bhakti Mishra Jnana and Jnana Mishra Bhakti and Bhakti, or from Bhakti Mishra Karma to Karma Mishra Bhakti to Bhakti. So this is of course fastest, but it is also more demanding because one requires the mercy of actually one requires the mercy of a person who is situated above to guide the person who is situated below. The superior has to help the inferior come up. So unless one comes across devotees who are so exalted, and one is willing to surrender to their instructions, then it is not easy to move up like this. Therefore, there is a pathway of jnana, there is a pathway of yoga also. Okay. Okay, now here I wanted to also show you Bhagavata Kumarishinala. comes. The place where this comes. Let me first of all see if I can get it. Important. Bhakti-vaibhava that's also dealt with. His explanation is quite simple also. See if it comes in. Okay. We'll find it. Chapter. Yeah. Bhakti-vaibhava. The question itself is brought up. Here. 20. এখন এরূপ প্রশ্ন হইতে পারে, now a question may be raised, যে যখন সকল ক্ষেত্রে জীবের সহিত ভগবান অবস্থিত, if in all the fields, which refers to all the bodies, the jiva is situated with Bhagavan, তখন জীবের দুর্ভাগ্য এবং কর্মক্লেশ কি কারণে হয়? For what reason is there misfortune as well as karmic reaction, the distress caused due to karmic reactions for the jiva? Tahar uttar imatra. And the answer for that is only this much. Bhagavan Maya aghata ghatanapati yasi shakti vishesh. The Maya of Bhagavan is a special potency that is capable of executing that which is impossible. বিমুক্ত ঈশ্বরের কার্পণ্য এবং জীবের বন্ধন সেই মায়া হইতে হয়. The liberated Lord experiences helplessness and the jiva experiences bondage due to this maya. এই কথা যুক্তির দ্বারা বুঝিতে পারিবে না. This you cannot understand through logic. অচিন্ত্য ভাব বিষয়ে তর্কের যোজনা সম্ভব নয়. It is not possible to apply logic for inconceivable events or entities. ভগবত চিন্তি শক্তির দ্বারা জীবের মায়ার প্রতি মোহ এবং ভগবানের তাহাতে অনুগ্রহ অভাব. It is by the inconceivable potency of Bhagavan that the jiva becomes deluded, develops delusion towards Maya, and Bhagavan is not merciful towards that jiva. Vastutah, jivatma shuddha vastu, tahar bandhan hoy na. Actually, the jivatma is a pure entity, shuddha vastu, and he does not experience any. He is not actually bound. মায়াতে মোহিত হইয়া মায়া হইতে প্রাপ্ত লিঙ্গ শরীরে যে আত্মাভিমান তাহারই বন্ধন. Being bewildered by Maya, he identifies himself with a subtle body that is provided by Maya, and that is the bondage. Because of this, he is not actually bound. Maya te mohita hoiya maya hoite prapta linga sharire je atma bhiman tahare bandhan. Being bewildered by Maya, he identifies himself with a subtle body that is provided by Maya, and that is the bondage. Sutarang jiver bandhan satyana. Therefore, the bondage of the jiva is not real. जीवेर आत्म विपर्जय अर्थात स्वरूप भ्रम केवल अर्थ बिना अर्थ दर्शन मात्र. The misperception of the jiva regarding himself is simply seeing something which does not exist. Swashirashchedanadi nyaya brahma matra. It is a delusion, like seeing the cutting of one's own head, etc. Jale prathivata chandrer kampadi jalakipta gunamatra. The trembling of the moon that is reflected on water is nothing but a feature of the water. Chandre kampadinai. There is no trembling and so forth in the moon. Chandra kampa bodha. Even though it does not happen, it appears that the moon is trembling. Tadrup. Drashta jiver atmae. Je anatmik gun arop taha mithya. Similarly, in the seeing self, in the jiva, the qualities which do not belong to that atma are superimposed on it, and that is false. Erup vivarta dharmai jive amanga. It is this kind of perverted nature that is the inauspiciousness of the jiva. Atatvataha atatvato nyatha buddhi vivarta iti udakritaha. This vivarta, or this perverted situation, refers to a perversion in understanding, which is not based on understanding of reality as it is. Jaha ghote nai taha ke ghotyatse bolia je mithya buddhi tahai vivarta. And this misconception simply means thinking something that didn't happen to have happened. Rajjute sarpa bhrama evam shukti te rajata bhrama. These are called vivarter udaharan. The examples of such misconceptions are the mistake, the mistaken idea that a rope is a snake and that a conch shell is silver. Erup labdhajanma jivaha vastutaha nitya nirhankata haleyo je parjanto they wait. Now then he is taking other places, looking from other places. And then again he comes back. 32 and 32, 33, 32. निवृत्ति धर्म कृष्णानुकंपा एवं शुद्ध भक्ति योग द्वारा से अविद्या अभिनिवेश क्रमे क्रमे तिरोहित है. When one engages in nivritti dharma, when one experiences Krishna's anukampa, mercy, and through shuddha bhakti yoga, then that influence, overwhelming influence of avidya, gradually uh, disappears. Tatparja ij, the purport, the import of this statement is as follows. शरीर यात्राएं समस्त व्यवहारे सात्विक व्यापार स्वीकृत करतः क्रमे क्रमे राजसो तामस स्वभाव और धर्म के दूर करते हो. As one maintains one's body in all activities, he should accept sattvic. Um, he should accept sattvic activities, and gradually he should get rid of rajasic and tamasic natures, rajasic and tamasic swabhav and rajasic tamasic dharma. It means he should give up both internally and externally activities that are features of rajoguna and tamoguna. संगे संगे शुद्ध भक्ति योग द्वारा वही सात्विक व्यापार सकल के निर्गुण क्रिया फैलते हैं. Along with that, simultaneously, one should execute pure bhakti yoga, by which all these sattvic activities are transformed into transcendental activities beyond the three modes of nature. Bhakti sadhan jata nirmal hoy, to Krishna anukampa udaya hoy. To whatever extent one's sadhana of bhakti is pure, to that extent Krishna's mercy arises. So why it is only then avidya ball toy hoy, the strength of avidya reduces. Evam vishuddha vidya vadhur uday hoy. And then pure vidya, which is the bride of Krishna's holy name, arises. যে সময়ে ইন্দ্রিয় উপরতি স্বভাবত হয় তখন সংসুপ্ত ব্যক্তি জাগ্রত হইলে যে মতো মিথ্যা স্বপ্ন ভয় সম্পূর্ণ রূপে যায়, just as naturally when the senses cease their functioning, when the material senses cease their functioning, which is comparable to a person who had been asleep and who had waken up, and then all of his fear due to some false dream completely goes away. Say rup sahajai harite drishti pode. So then naturally his glance falls upon Lord Hari. Evam tan nibandhan sakal klesh vilay prapta hoy. And because of that, all of his distresses attain cessation. Hari Gunanavad Shraddhapurvak Shunite Shunite Ashesh Klesher Upasham hoy. By faithfully hearing the repetitive glories of the features of Lord Hari, then all distresses are neutralized. Taha Charanavinda Paraga Sambandhe Atmalabdha Rati Paile Jeki Hai Taha Ati Boivo. What more can be said about the natural attraction that arises towards the dust of his lotus feet? Okay. 15. Vidurovacha Sanchinna Samshayo Mahyam Tava Sutasina Vibho Ubhetrapi Bhagavan Manome Sampradhavati. Vidura said, O powerful sage, my lord, all my doubts about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities have now been removed by your convincing words. My mind is now perfectly entering into them. Uttaram Abhinandan Atmanaha Kritarthatam Avishkaroti. So now he appreciates the answer and given by Maitreya, and he expresses his indebtedness to him. His indebtedness, his satisfaction in the answer. Tanchanayati Shadbhi in 6 verses beginning with text 15. Chid Rupatva Abhisheshe Api Katham Ishwarasya Jagat Katrutwadi Katham Va Jivasya Samsara. Since both of them are spiritual, there is a natural question that applies to both without any distinction. How is it that Ishvara is involved with the creation, etc., of the world? And how is it that the jiva experiences samsara? Samsara is birth and rebirth. Iti ya samshaya mama asit sa tava su uktam so sa upapattikam vakyam eva asihi khadgaha tena sanchinnaha. Your reasonable words are like a sword, and through that sword you have cut out my doubt regarding them. अतः इदानीं मे मनः उभयत्र अपि ईश्वर स्वातन्त्र्ये जीव पारतन्त्र्ये च सम्प्रधावति सम्यक् प्रविशति. Wow. Clear he is. How you can say that he is Kevala Advaitam? Uh, so then Vidura says, now my mind is able to clearly enter into the subject pertaining to both of them, about the independence of Ishvara and the dependence of the Jiva. एवं वा अविलुप्त अवबोध रूपस्य आत्मनः कथम अविद्यया बन्धः कुतः वा तन्निवृत्ति इति संशयः. So then, how is it that the Atma, whose awareness is ever mm, is never ever taken away, how is such an Atma become bound, and how does he become free from that? This doubt, uh, it is no longer that. Ubhayatra iti bandhe mokshe cha. My doubts regarding bondage and liberation have been destroyed. Jiva Goswami. Ateva aha sanchinna iti. Uhetra Ishware Jive cha yadva jnana vijnana rupe jnane premani tat sadhana rupayam bhaktau cha iti artha. Both of them, Ubhayatra, can also refer to the process of jnana and the process of bhakti. The process of jnana which brings about theoretical and realized knowledge. The process of bhakti which brings about Bhagavad Prema. Sampradhavati samyak pravishyati. Ashna Chakravarti, Mahyam mama mam bodheyatum tava yatsu uktam tadeva asihi tena ubhayatra ishvare jivecha sampradhavati sa vivekam pravishyati. Sampradhavati indicates that his mind is now able to enter into the subject matter with all of its internal distinctions. The science of Krishna or the science of God and the living entities is so subtle that even a personality like Vidura has to consult persons like the sage Maitreya. Doubts about the eternal relationship of the Lord and the living entity are created by mental speculators in different ways. But the conclusive fact is that the relationship of God and the living entity is one of the predominator and the predominated. The Lord is the eternal predominator, and the living entities are eternally predominated. The real knowledge of this relationship entails reviving the lost consciousness to this standard, and the process for such revival is devotion service to the Lord. By gaining a clear understanding from authorities like the sage Maitreya, one can become situated in real knowledge, and the disturbed mind can thus be fixed on the progressive path. 16. Sadhvetad vyakritam vidvan natma mayayanam hare natma mayayanam hare abhatya partham nirmulam vishwamulam na yad bahihi. O learned sage, your explanations are very good, as they should be. Disturbances of the conditioned soul have no other basis than the movement of the external energy of the Lord. Yasmat tvaya sadhu vyakritam किम तत् हरे शक्तिर्या आत्ममाया जीव विषया माया तद अयनम तदाश्रयम एतद दुर्भगत्वादिकम भाति. It is simply the potency of Lord Hari. It is his Atma Maya, which means the Maya that is focused on the Jiva. Because of her, there is the apparent presence of the misfortune and so on of the Jivatma. Yat yasmat sva shiraschedadi vat apartham avastubhutam nirmulam moolashunyam cha. Because it is baseless, it is meaningless, insubstantial. It is like seeing one's own head being cut, and so on. Yasmadasya moolam vishwasya moolam swa ajnanam bahirvina nasti. This is the root cause of the entire universe. One's ignorance is not there without there being an external accessory. संशय छेदने हेतुर अवधारितार्थम एव अनुवदति साधु इति पंचभिः. In destroying this doubt, the reason that has been understood is now being repeated in 5 verses. Harer atma adhinam mayaya ayanam achintyagatihi iti etat sadhu eva vyakhyātam. You have very nicely explained that the maya that is under Lord Hari moves about inconceivably. Yet yasmad bahir vina apartham avastu bhutam moolashunyam cha vishwamulam tat adyasa hetu bhutam ajnanam jivanam api na asti. It is insubstantial. It is baseless. It is the ignorance that is the cause of this superimposition of this false conception. Actually, it does not exist amongst the jivas. Krishna Chakrati. Nanu mamasu uktam tvaya kidrisham avadharitam traha he brahman. And then Vidura anticipated that. Maitreya would be thinking, okay, what exactly have you understood based on what I have nicely spoken? And then he speaks this verse, O Brahmana. Sadhu. Sadhu yatasya tatha tvaya vyahritam. You have spoken very nicely. What is that? Harer bahiranga shakti ya atmamaya tad ashreya evam etat. All of this is happening under the influence of the Supreme Lord's Atma Maya, which is his Lord Hari's external potency. Bhagavataha nirgunasya api gunavatvam taihi gunaihi srishti adi kartarutvam cha abhati. Therefore, it appears that Bhagavan, who is nirguna, who is beyond the 3 modes of material nature, seems to be the possessor because he engages in the activities of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, which are actually performed by the 3 modes of material nature. Apartham, nishprayojanam. It is apartha, meaningless. Apartha here means for no purpose, for no personal purpose. Tasya atma ramatvat, because he is self-pleased. Nirmulam, nishkaranam, tasya prayojaka antara abhavat. It is baseless in the sense there is no external reason for this. Because nobody has impelled him to do these things. Atarkyam. And therefore, it is beyond logic. Iti Ishvaragatam Tvaya Vyahritam. So you have spoken about Ishvara. Tatha and Eta Jivasya Avidya Bandhanam Tadutha Durbhagatvarikam Cha Atmamaya Ayanameva. And the misfortune and so on in the form of the jiva's bondage to avidya. That is also caused by his atmamaya. Nishprayojanam, nishkaranam, avastucha iti. Nishprayojanam, nishkaranam, avastucha iti. Jivagatam cha vyakritam iti. And that is also nishprayojana for us. not because the Lord has any purpose to achieve. Nishkarana. He is not impelled by someone to do it. Avastucha, and it is also not based on reality. So, the Jiva's nature also has been described by you. Tantrena iyam vidra uktihi kimcha yad bahihi yam atamayam vina vishwasya moolam karanam na asti iti. Other than the external world, which is actually the atamaya of the Lord, there will be no reason for this world. Iti vishwasvena bhagavata sagunatvam sakriyatvam cha na swarupasiddham iti bhavaha. Him being the possessor of the gunas, him being a performer of the activities of this world, as is Bhagavan in his feature as the creator of the world. This is not his original nature. This is the implication here. The living entity's unlawful desire to become one with the Lord in every respect is the root cause of the entire material manifestation. For otherwise, the Lord has no need to create such a manifestation, even for his pastimes. The conditioned soul, under the spell of the external energy of the Lord, falsely suffers many unfortunate incidents in material life. The Lord is the predominator of the external energy Maya, whereas the living entity is predominated by the same Maya under the material condition. The false attempt of the living entity to occupy the predominating post of the Lord is the cause of its material bondage, and the conditioned soul's attempt to become one with the Lord is the last snare of Maya. 17. Yascha murushatamo loke, yascha buddhe param gataha, tavu bhav sukhamedhete, klishyatyantharito janaha. Both the lowest of fools and he who is transcendental to all intelligence enjoy happiness, whereas persons between them suffer the material pangs. Alpagyatvad purvam mama samshaya jataha ityaha yaha cha iti. Because I know less, therefore previously this doubt had come about in me. That is conveyed in the current verse. Yascha मूढ़तमः देहादि आसक्तः यश्च बुद्धेः प्रकृतेः परम ईश्वरं प्राप्तः. That person who is most foolish, the lowest of the fools, the one who is attached to his body and so on, and the one who is transcendental to all intelligence, which means he has attained the Supreme Lord. Tau sukham yatha bhavati tatha edhete jivatah iti artha. Even while living there, happy. Samshaya klesha abhavat, because they don't have any distress due to doubts. Yastu dukkha anusandhanena prapancham jihasati. That person who, by considering the distresses of this world, wants to give up this world. So ananda samvedana abhavat. Hatum na shaknoti. And because he does not experience his intrinsic bliss, he is not able to give up that world. Satu krishyati. He simply suffers. Kramasandarbha. Mudhatamaha. Sarasara viveka rahitaha. Sukhamedhete. Samshaya klesha rahitau bhavataha. That person who is the lowest of the fools is the person who is devoid of a distinction between that which is the essence and that which is not the essence. And then you have this person who is transcendental to material intelligence, which means he has attained the Lord Ishvara. Both of them, they are happy because both of them are free from the distress of doubts. Antritaha, samshayitaha. And then you have these people in between who are filled with distresses, doubts. Alpagyatvat etavad dinaparyantam aham samshayika dukkha nimagne evasam ityaha. Because I have less knowledge, till this day I was immersed in the distresses caused by various doubts. He conveys this in this verse. Mudattamaha pashu eva vishayasakta buddhe. Yuddhe prakriteः param ishvaram praptah. So one person is attached to sense objects like an animal, and the other is transcendental to all material intelligence, which means is transcendental to Prakriti. Ishwaram praptah, he has attained the Lord. Tau sukham yatha syat evam ethete. That person, he experiences material happiness. Both of them experience material happiness nicely. Samshaya klesha bhavat vishaya ananda ishvara ananda abhyam vardhete. One person is growing because of the happiness due to sense enjoyment. The other person is growing because of the happiness coming from the Supreme Lord. Yastu dukkha anusandhanena prapancham jihasati. And then you have this person who wants to give up prapancha, material existence, by considering the distresses of material existence. Bhagavad Bhakti alabha hatum chana shaknoti. And because he has not attained Bhagavad Bhakti, he is not able to give up. Sato antaritaha, madhyavarti. That person is in between. Anandadvaya abhavena samshaya sindhu nimagna krishyati. He, because he does not experience any of these two types of happinesses. He is immersed, immersed in an ocean of doubt, and therefore he suffers. The lowest of fools do not understand material miseries. They pass their lives merrily and do not inquire into the miseries of life. Such persons are almost on the level of the animals, who, although in the eyes of superiors are always miserable in life, are unaware of material distresses. A hog's life is degraded in its standard of happiness, which entails living in a filthy place, engaging in sex enjoyment at every opportune moment, and laboring hard in a struggle for existence. But this is unknown to the hog. Similarly, human beings who are unaware of the miseries of material existence and are happy in sex life and hard labor are the lowest of fools. Yet, because they have no sense of miseries, they supposedly enjoy so-called happiness. The other class of men, those who are liberated, are situated in the transcendental position above intelligence, are really happy and are called Paramahamsas. But persons who are neither like hogs and dogs nor on the level of the Paramahamsas feel the material pangs, and for them, inquiry about the supreme truth is necessary. The Vedanta Sutra states, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Now one should inquire about Brahman. This inquiry is necessary for those who are between the Paramahamsas and the fools who have forgotten the question of self-realization in the midst of life in sense gratification. 18. Arthabhavam vinishchitya pratitasyapi na atmanah tam chapi yushma charana sevayaham paranude. But my dear sir, I'm obliged to you because now I can understand that this material manifestation is without substance. Although it appears real, I'm confident that by serving your feet, I'll be able to give up the false idea. Artha abhavam vinishchitya. Having ascertained that it is without substance. Pratitasyapi na atmanah. And whatever values are apparently perceived, they also do not pertain to the self. Idanim tu kritarthosmi. Right now, I'm happy. I am very thankful. Yataha tvaya samshaya chinnaha, because you have destroyed my doubt. Kevalam badhitanuvrittireva avashishta. Right now, only the continuation of the previous conditioning is remaining. See this expression, badhita anuvritti. Badhita anuvritti means the continuation of a previous conditioning. Prabhupada explains it as a fan is running and you switch it off and then it continues to run. This is called badhita anuvritti. Standard examples are Let's say one has a disease by which he sees everything as double. He understands that actually it's only one object, but his eyes still show him two objects. So when he takes medical treatment, appropriate medical treatment, he still continues to see it for some time until he gets fully cured. Sa api yushmat prasadan nivartishyate. But this continuation of the previous conditioning, this will also stop by your mercy. Ityaha. He states that in this verse. Na atmanaha, anatmanaha, prapanchasya, pratitasya api. Artha bhavam artha atra nasti. This material existence, which is not the self, which is not conscious, even though it is perceived, actually is baseless. It is insubstantial. Kintu pratiti matramiti. It is simply a matter of experience. युष्मच्चरण सेवया निश्चित्य ताम प्रतीतिम अपि अहम परानुदे अपनेष्यामि इति अर्थः. By engaging in your service, I have understood that, and I will certainly get rid of this perception also. Kimcha sampratyapi mama kleshaha. What is this klesha? क्लेशशेषः वर्तते. Now there is a remaining amount of distress. आत्मनः जीवस्य अर्थ अभावं वास्तव दुर्भगत्वाद्य अभावं त्वन्मुखोदित सिद्धान्तेन विनिश्चित्य अपि न प्रतीतस्यापि अर्थ अभावस्य ताम् अप्रतीतिम् अहं परानुदे अपनेष्यामि. The jiva does not experience any substantial misfortune and so on. Even after I understand the conclusions that are spoken directly by you from your mouth, even though this subject matter is not realized by me, I will get rid of this lack of realization. The sufferings of the conditioned soul are superficial and have no intrinsic value, like the cutting off of one's head in a dream. Yet, although this statement is theoretically true, it is very difficult for the common man or the neophyte on the transcendental path to realize practically. However, by serving the feet of great transcendentalists like Maitreya Muni and by constantly associating with them, one is able to give up the false idea that the soul suffers material pangs. Okay, I'll stop with that. वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः.